What's good, everybody?
Welcome to the BnG Supercast.
Episode
Awesome.
2.
Episode 2. Really episode 3, but
Yes. No one can know.
I was gone on a
we're
trip.
forgetting about episodes of the past.
Yeah, it's in the past, Ben.
Bonus content.
I went on a trip to Colorado. That's why I was gone last week.
Lies.
Couldn't record.
Nothing but lies.
I'm super popular and hip and travel worthy.
Yeah.
So,
The Office.
yeah.
How you doing? I'll never get over that. That cracks me up every time.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Our content is so funny.
How's it going? Did you enjoy our workout this morning?
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Dude, bench press is like the most satisfying thing like to do.
Yeah.
You
It's
know?
like the epitome of manliness.
Well, and we didn't even do like bench press.
Yeah.
We did like
Free weights.
free weights, like dumbbells.
Yeah, dumbbells. Yeah.
Which
good time.
is better for your stabilizer muscles
Yeah.
than a machine or even a bench press bar, really.
Yeah, with the bar's fine. I mean, people do it, all the time. Have you ever seen the videos of the guys who like tear their muscles working out? You ever see that?
No, I've seen the people who like quack like a duck while they're doing it, but
there's a guy. He's doing isolated.
is that the guy who tore his bicep?
Yes.
I heard about that.
Yes.
What did it?
Like literally, he's got his arms on like the machine or whatever with the pad.
Oh yeah.
And he's lifting it, and they say that's why you're not supposed to hyperextend.
Oh.
But he's doing this, and you see his whole bicep just go. Whoop.
Oh,
Yeah, it is no.
that
fun.
makes me faint.
Yeah. It's not good.
I'm sure he
But-
wasn't feeling just like.
I wasn't feeling too fine and dandy after that. I don't think.
Did like the video cut off or what?
Yeah. Well, because most of the time I feel like when people are filming that stuff, the bad thing happens. They turn the camera person would keep rolling, but any normal human is like, oh, hey, you need help, like
Yeah.
you just tore your muscles,
You just tore your entire bicep.
Yeah.
Like it was probably already like not letting himself rest enough, and there was like micro tears that weren't healed, and that was like all it took to. It was like a perforated paper, it just like tore through.
Yeah. No good.
That's why you strengthen your tendons.
No, for real.
And
I mean,
your muscles.
well, the cool thing about, I don't think, some people are like, oh, calisthenics, only calisthenics, but for me, I feel like you need both. I love calisthenics because they have a direct correlation to the muscles that you need for that exercise are being immediately affected. Like a pull-up, for example. Like if you do a pull-up, every muscle that's needed to do a pull-up is being used.
Yeah.
And is being torn and strengthened,
That's called it's called a workout.
Yeah. Well, like some workouts, for example, like bench. Like when you're on a regular bench, sometimes what can happen is because you're in this kind of constricted form where the bar, it's basically forcing you to use some muscles that aren't necessarily. That's what they say.
It isolates them.
It isolates them almost too much.
Well, and the point is to increase your gains, right?
Yeah.
And like if you isolating is great to increase strength, but you're right, you need to like balance it with rest and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're both licensed physical
we know
therapists.
what we're talking about.
Yeah. I actually
we're experts.
I ran Ironmans.
Yeah. Ironmans.
Iron Men.
I saw the first, second, and the third movie.
Yeah. It's called an Ironman marathon, actually.
Yeah. So,
what's your favorite workout?
my favorite workout is the one I do. Like the one, just being consistent. You know?
I get you.
I'd say for me, I really enjoy heavy bag. Doing the boxing stuff and.
I really like that too.
Yeah.
I actually used to do that back in high school when I was still weak and scrawny.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess chubby and weak, but
you were kind of in an in-between phase as far as like.
Yeah.
What drew you to doing the boxing, doing the heavy bag, that sort of thing?
You're not gonna like it, Ben. You're not gonna like my answer.
Don't say anime.
No.
It's anime. Isn't
It was motivation in anime. It was called Hajime no Ippo, or like the fighting of Ippo, like the
It's the story of a boxer.
The round of Ippo. Yeah, the story of a high school boxer who starts out as like this kid who's bullied and pushed around, and he doesn't really stand up for himself for stuff. But then one day he meets this boxer who's like, why are you letting these kids push you around, man?
Yeah.
You know? And he's like, here, punch this punching bag. It'll make you feel better. He's like, pretend it's those bullies. And he's like, what? No. And then he does it, and he's like really good. Like he actually like skins his knuckles or whatever a little bit, which is something that happens when like people who are like, they've got a lot of power, but they're not like used to boxing.
They don't have a callus.
They don't have a callus,
Exactly,
and they're not used to boxing. And so this guy's like, oh my gosh, this guy could be like really good. A great rookie, right? He's like, he could be the next rookie. And it just goes from there, you know. He like gets different skills and stuff. Typical anime shonen arc.
Yeah, story arc.
Yeah. And it's
which is like, yeah. Which, I don't know. Do you feel like for that sort of thing? I mean, I guess in this case, like you were inspired by it, right?
Yeah, I was inspired by the hard work. You know, like his character was strong because before he started boxing, his mother is a widow, so he would help her with her fishing business. She runs like a fishing shop. And so the way he got strong is he was always like carrying everything so she wouldn't have to carry heavy stuff. And he would like do that. And that was like his workout, you know, before like he like became
farmer
boxer.
Strength.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly. The farmer strength. But but even afterward then he would still work hard at his training. Yeah. And like he was always up against really bad odds, like in each of his consecutive matches. So like his first match, like he's rivaled against this guy who he's really skilled and was like born and raised in boxing, basically. And he's a really skilled outfighter or outboxer. And do you know like infighters versus outfighters?
Well, like I know Tyson was an infighter, right?
Yeah,
Mike Tyson.
So
which typically if you have shorter limbs, you know, you kind of get your leverage.
You go in close,
twisting your hips.
Right. You go in close. You go lots of powerful hook shots and uppercuts and body shots.
Right.
You're getting inside and in fighter.
I'm definitely not that way. I got those long limbs, you know.
Yeah, long limbs and a long reach, a lot of height. Generally, you're more favored for outboxing, which is more about like getting in quick jabs and you go for points usually rather than for KOs. But this rival character, he's like a outboxer and he's an infighter. And the whole like trope is that like, oh, like the infighter brute, you know, has to rely on strength. And so he's always like figuring out like a strategy mixed with training to like give him a shot at winning. Yeah. And his attitude is always like, he's not like, I'm going to win. He's always just sort of like, I'm going to do my best and I'm going to see if I can like in the first one, he's like, I'm going to see if I can land a punch on him, right? And then the next one, he's like, oh, I'm going to see if I can beat him, you know? And he's like building his confidence with each one.
You know, it makes me think of, I've got these, someone gave me these shirts called GGG. It's like a ministry.
Yeah, I saw that.
You saw that?
You were wearing one.
Yeah, I was wearing one this morning.
Yeah.
I love what it says.
And then you showered and you put on a better shirt.
I know, right? A different one.
Another shirt.
Not stanky.
Yeah.
But I love what it says on the back. It says train, equip, launch.
I didn't see that part.
Yeah, it says it on the back.
Oh, on the back. Okay.
Yeah. And I love even thinking about like training in the gym. I keep thinking about one of my close friends, Zach. We talk about kind of relating the discipline and sort of the delayed gratification of like going to the gym to like how that kind of relates to like things in the spirit, like especially with like things like Bible study, like studying the word.
Yeah. I mean, you're improving yourself in various ways. Mm-hmm. You're growing.
But the thing I think about it is like, it's a bit of discipline. No, I mean, we kind of have to choose to show up.
Oh yeah. Like there are for sure times where like I've not wanted to read the Bible I mean, and even right now, like, I'm not doing it. You know? I'm not.
You're in a Bible study, aren't you?
I know. I do the reading, but I don't do anything besides that.
Yeah.
I don't do extra.
Yeah.
You know, I do what's asked of me, and it's kind of what I do.
Well, I think the thing with it is like it can so quickly turn into
a burden,
or even a religious sort of mindset, and it's not about that at all. It's just like, did you watch that video I sent you? The one about discerning the spirit.
No.
That one guy. Oh, dude, you gotta watch it, bro. It's so good. So he talks about it, but basically how like there are some like Christians who like, basically they're kind of like.
Are you talking about the one where it says like how Christians worshipped back then? I was watching that one. I don't know if you sent that one to me. I think I just found it.
Yeah.
I think I just found that one.
Well, but he was talking about how like some people think number one, reading the word is like, you know, religious, which is really sad.
What do you mean?
Well, they think of it as being like, oh, I'm so spiritual that I'm just gonna
feel it out.
Yeah, feel it out. You know,
feel out the vibe.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And like, there's nothing wrong with listening to the voice of the Lord, but like so often, we see people who, you know,
it's a pendulum.
Totally.
Like there are people who swing one way, and they're like, oh, we have to read the Bible all the time.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it actually that improves us? Oh, just the act of reading it. And it's like, no, you're missing it.
Yeah.
You're missing it. Because
the scribes and Pharisees, that's what they did.
Right, exactly.
They just read the scriptures, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They were whitewashed tombs.
Totally.
You swing the other way, and you have people who don't read it at all.
Yeah.
And are like, oh, you know what? Actually, I choose to avoid it. I see it as like a religious like thing, you know. There's a balance.
Totally.
There's a balance. And like there's my pastor Slavic, he talked about the
at your church.
At Garden City.
Mm-hmm.
He said there's 3 B's that people often are like, I think they're the main ways people get stopped up with scripture. I'm trying to remember. One of them was burden. So it's where like, like I don't have time, you know, or it's just, or no. So the first one is actually boring. That one is like, I could read the Bible or I could play a video game or something, you know. It's like, it's a competition between like forms of stimuli almost. And that's the one way that it can lose out.
Well, and if you're framing it in that context, nothing about that is appealing to our flesh. No. Like reading the word or like, and it's not about, even as like someone who enjoys writing and reading, like there are times where I've seen like, oh man, like this is actually a pretty cool literary moment, you know, like for example, when David he's been betrayed. I think this is when he's been betrayed by Saul. So he was sort of like Saul's loyal, like man. He was there for him when he first killed Goliath. He was in the king's court.
And then he was in the king's court. Right. And then he would like play music to calm him down.
To calm his demons. Saul had literal demons.
He had literal demons. Yeah. And then Saul realized that like, oh, David's going to be the next king, and he wanted to try to kill him. So David had to flee, right? Mm-hmm. And so David's at this low point where he's in hiding and he needs help. So he goes, one of the first things he needs when he's going out with like his own close group of supporters, in secret, he goes to the temple, right? And he goes there and he talks to the priest who's there. And he says, we need like supplies and stuff. And I think he said, we need weapons. He says like, I need a sword. And do you know what sword he got?
What?
He got the sword that he gave to Saul. The sword of Goliath.
That's right.
And the priest says, this is the only one that we have. And as David takes it, he says, there are none like this. And I imagine what like must have been going through his mind. Like, this is like the most like kind of like weirdly tragic and poetic is like, he gave the sword to Saul, right? One time as a sign of his fealty. And now it's being given back to him by this priest, and it's like this symbol of like that connection you had with Saul is now
totally.
no more.
And talk about like betrayal, because think about it. He was literally a shepherd boy,
Yeah.
right? He was the least of his family in some ways, right? The king of Israel, Saul, right? He probably looked up to him in some ways, thinking, oh, this is like God's appointed king.
Yeah.
This is God's anointed, because they anointed Saul right before they did David. And literally the king is being harassed by demons. Literally at one point hurls a spear at him. He experiences the betrayal, the same sort of betrayal that Jesus does. He's a Christ type, right? And I think about even today, there have been people who've talked about, there's going to be a time in your life where someone who you're supposed to be close to, someone who you look up to maybe, or like we all experience the betrayal in some way as part of our portion, in Christ,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's often people who are close, right? Because you can only really be betrayed by someone who's been like an ally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah! No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah.
So that's a cool moment that, like, just reading it even from a story standpoint is cool. What I've found is what's added to my appreciation of a lot of things has been my faith. Like, seeing my salvation in Christ and the grace of God. Like, Preachcast. But it's just like,
preach it, bro, preach it.
But it's just like, so the movie for Abraham, let's start with like his only son.
Right.
That's what it's called.
Right.
It's kind of like a low example for me because I didn't really enjoy it very much.
You didn't?
Just gonna put it out there. Overall, it was pretty boring.
Well,
There was cool details in there.
The story itself is what made it, right? For me. The story of faith. The story of faith.
Right. Well, and that's that exactly. I watched it, and I watched it with one of my friends, and so let me just start you with the beginning here. So, beginning of the movie, I'm sort of absorbing the details. Oh, they got cool, like, accurate attire and costumes. Yeah. This landscape's probably how a lot of their home looked, the home they were going to. And we get introduced to each of these characters. And the actors, they have a lot of passion, you can tell. I think that. I at least believe so. And they have pretty good performances.
I would say so. I thought it was really good.
My least favorite character.
I know.
Guess.
Well, you said I remember you telling me, you said your least favorite character was the son.
Yeah.
Right.
Isaac,
yeah.
He looks too old.
Well, he's probably like 19.
Right. But at the same time, like, he still doesn't act the way he looks. He's supposed to act like this little boy, right?
Well, I don't
in the
think
Bible
he was
does it say
little.
how old he is?
I think he was a teenager. I think he was older than what you would think, because the way they tell the story, they act kind of like he had just sort of been born almost. The way the story tells it. Let me look it up. I'm gonna look it up real quick.
I mean, it's not a big deal.
It's not
just
a huge deal. It's just kind of interesting,
So while Ben looks it up and I keep the audience engaged. So Isaac, I don't know. He just took me out of it. I don't know if the kids were that pale and they got their tanness from working in the sun and stuff. He just did not strike me.
Apparently, he was anywhere between. He was older than 4 or 5.
Okay.
And younger than 36 or 37.
Very helpful.
Yeah. No, but that's old.
Gotquestions.org.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by law of averages, he was like.
He could have been
20.
In his 30s, though.
Yeah, that's true.
It looks like they don't agree. There's different speculations.
There's different ideas.
Right.
I feel like Isaac would have had his own sons.
Well,
if he got to a certain age, so it probably makes sense that it was earlier. because the whole idea was that by killing Isaac, not only was he losing his only son, he was also losing his line. His line was going to be cut off again, because if Isaac had sons, then there would still be blood. So it would make sense that it would probably be earlier, right?
Well,
just a theory.
Well, I mean, thinking about it, imagine though the faith that Abraham had. We saw in the film, he was so sorrowful the whole time. But the faith to acknowledge God above even that ridiculous sounding
request.
ask. That request.
Really, it was a command. It wasn't a request.
It was.
Well, so that was sort of my initial impression in the beginning. The plot kind of goes on, and the thing is, there's not much plot. There's flashbacks. We're learning different aspects of the characters. There was his wife, her beginning impression of his God, her struggle with idol worship.
Totally.
Hagar, and how she kind of said, no, just sleep with Hagar. I did not like his wife.
Well,
I started to feel like she was she's a very manipulative person, and I get that the people in the Bible are flawed.
Exactly. She's a human, just like anyone else.
That makes sense. It just doesn't seem like they actually gave any resolution to some of the things that happened. Abraham is very stoic, understandably. He's trying not to break under this pressure.
Totally.
His mind is probably like a roller coaster. And his wife, we see the actions that his wife has. I wish there would have been maybe some resolution between the two of them. Something that would have been they've moved on from that, or I don't know.
Well, sure. And we're
to me
we're speculating a little bit.
Right, we're speculating.
Now, I will say though, I think about, and obviously you and I aren't married.
Because the way we're not married, right? So I'm talking about the movie. I'm not talking about the actual accurate historical Bible story, because and you were saying something, so I want to just sort of put that there. I'm going to set that down.
Sure.
What I'm talking about is as through the medium, what I would have liked. But what you're going to say.
Well, I was just going to say, I imagine in some ways, because we've seen it amongst fellow believers, but there are times when you might be in faith about something.
Yeah.
Okay, and someone close to you, who's supposed to be with you, is not.
Yeah.
And so you have to still remain abiding in that path of faith, that the Lord has for you, even if someone who should be with you in something is not.
Yeah.
So even
that
in that
sense.
Example, where maybe his wife, and we're speculating, right?
Oh.
But maybe even if it wasn't resolved, it was still his responsibility to not waver, to be steadfast. You know.
So I got some mango in my teeth still.
Yeah, those out of season mangoes can get a little stringy.
So yeah, I found a hard time connecting with them. They almost didn't feel like people in some ways. Sometimes they felt like stoic, monuments or statues of characters in a way, caricaturized in the director's vision. Even the movie poster,
I don't sense
with
that.
how it portrays them is like you see their face, you see all the details on it, you see their expression. They're looking at the camera or looking slightly off, and all their features are on full display. Yet that almost makes them feel statuesque to me. I had a difficult time ever connecting with any character. And I get that you're not supposed to there are some stories where you're not really supposed to be relating to them. Maybe that's kind of the thing, is I'm used to that kind of story where we have some sort of emotional to get us kind of invested. The thing is I didn't see that. Isaac was maybe supposed to be that, but I kind of didn't like Isaac's performance, or I don't know.
Well, from my perspective, when the Lord promised, like, listen, your descendants will be greater than the stars in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Try to count them. Try to count the stars. Your descendants will be greater, We are literally the sons that was promised to him. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's in Hebrews, talks about, by faith, right? By faith. So we are sons. So the same kind of faith that Abraham had, to not see, but to believe, right? The intangible sort of substance of faith that produces action. It produces.
Sorry, I was getting distracted. You're saying his faith actually led to tangible results.
100%.
Yeah.
It led to.
I agree.
It led to, literally, if we trace it all the way back, it's the consecrating of a people, right? Called them out. He called them out. He consecrated them out of all these nations that were idol worshipers, right? Mm-hmm. So in the same way, we are also sons. We're the same partakers of that promise. We're called out, and Hebrews says, we're now a royal priesthood, holy nation,
Yeah, and the thing is, none of that relates to how the movie was good. Like,
I think it's easy to pull down.
It is,
and it is very hard.
Easy to be a critic.
Exactly, and so
I like criticizing though.
It can be good. It can be good. Only, I think, if it propels us to produce better.
That's true.
I mean, we can acknowledge weaknesses.
I was going to say, like, you don't have to be a doctor to tell someone, oh, you can't criticize me. Why don't you be a doctor? It's like, no, I can still criticize you, right? Even if I don't do it.
I just think that sometimes if we were to do that with people, it wouldn't be very fun for anyone.
Am I doing that with people?
I don't think so. I'm just saying, like, taking that same sort of mindset.
I'm doing that with just my overall rating of the movie, I guess.
Yeah, I get it.
So
there's not a lot of movies that cover this very narrow, journey.
It is.
It's kind of a big undertaking.
The thing is, it deserves better. That's my idea. Like, I feel like the best companies should be working on it, and at the same time, they shouldn't be. It's the catch-22 where it's like, oh, would you rather they have had, like, a big studio work on it and pour millions of dollars into it, and then it's like, which no one would do because, like, they're going to see it as, like, unprofitable.
Right.
It would be watered down anyway, And the thing is, like, do you go that way or do you go the way of, like, VidAngel, right? That's the studio?
I can't remember if it's the distribution company or the studio. But
okay, well, you go with the studio that did it, and VidAngel distributed it. But it just feel like it could have been, like, better, And maybe that's the wrong attitude to have. Like, maybe the next one they do will be better.
Yeah.
I
think you can only get so much from it.
It's true.
And
I think
it serves as a good visual storytelling, but it's not perfect.
No, and
not many things are.
It's far from perfect. Yeah. Like, I mean, imagine this. Those of you who watch this movie, listen to this. Imagine we go through the whole movie, but from the perspective of Isaac instead of Abraham. Because I think their focus on this journey and the actions of Abraham are so intent. I think they forgot part of Abraham, part of the amazing part of his story was the influence he had and what he did, his actions. But they made him the central character. And central characters in stories need a journey, right? And I think when you're ranking a movie out of an account like that, at least out of an account like that, what would give the movie more dynamism and get more interest going, let the audience use their imagination. Because we have Abraham in front of us and he's center stage, we know he's upset. We know we could read the Bible. We don't have to watch the movie to know Abraham's going through hell. But now what if we put it from the eyes of Isaac? Now we have insight into Isaac and we're like, oh, this is how Isaac feels. oh, this is what he's thinking. Oh, this is how he sees his dad. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what's going to happen yet when they get to the end of this journey. What his dad's going to say to him. So our journey parallels Isaac's, where we're both kind of seeing his father Abraham.
They could have done that without changing too much. They could have just added that in, honestly.
Right.
And it would have been nice, honestly.
It would have been cool. And that's using the medium, right? Isaac is our lens. And then what would have been even better, at the end, after he survives, we see a glimpse into that promise being lived out. Maybe Isaac closes his book or whatever, or he finishes the story. Like, and that's the story of what my father did. And his sons are like, oh, wow, and we see the next generation, Like, it doesn't have to be that corny.
Yeah.
That's an exaggeration, but, like, that would have been so gratifying.
Yeah, you're right.
It would have taken that, and not only would it have grounded what happened in actual results for us to see, without having to say it, it would have completed and balanced out this whole thing, because the whole movie is so morose. It's so sad, and it's a sad story. But, like, I mean, the dips into
but that's the thing, is like it was seasoned with.
I know. I get it. I have a faith, and I understand that.
Yeah.
I cried at the ending.
Mm-hmm.
I bawled at the ending. I didn't like the movie, but I still bawled because at the very, very end, I saw him holding the knife. I saw the mother grieving. I saw all of this, and in my heart of hearts, I said, and the Lord didn't make them do it, but He went through it instead.
Right.
He lived that out.
Yeah.
And it humanized what God did. And when I say humanized, I mean it let me understand it through my own feelings and my own emotions.
Well, that is the beauty of actually imagination.
Right.
Like, God has given us the tool of imagination.
Right. And I took that without the movie having to do it.
Right. This, the sad thing is, like, so many use it for evil, but, like, we can use it for good. Like, in that moment.
Imagination or movies?
Imagination.
Huh.
Like, you can use that to think about the fact that literally God did send His only son,
Yeah.
And he was beaten to a pulp more than anyone ever had before.
He was the most innocent person.
Yeah.
The most undeserving, who got the worst treatment, right? The Romans literally created crucifixion as a torturous form of execution to inflict the most pain in the shortest amount of time.
Yeah. His own mother didn't even recognize him. He was that. When she went up to the cross, like, his own mother didn't recognize him.
Is that true?
I think so. I think
I think he said, "Look upon your son," when she was there.
I might be getting this mixed up. It could be when maybe he was actually. I
don't know.
He was resurrected, actually, and because he was so different from maybe how
she'd seen
beaten
him
he was. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'm getting it probably mixed up a little bit, but I remember at one point she didn't recognize
apostate.
Right.
Misrepresent. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah. So, all in all, man movie. I would say watch it if you want to see a
incredible story.
Incredible story with a mediocre kind of representation.
I'd give it a 7.
I'd say don't go there if you're just about the movies, but go there if you want the story.
The story of Abraham.
The story of Abraham.
Right.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe the next movie they'll just improve with time. Who knows?
Well, and the thing about movies. Oh man, we just passed 35 minutes, so we gotta.
The camera's out.
Wrap this up.
Wait, the camera missed it for 6 minutes.
Oh. Anyway.
Hold on. Let me start the recording again. Ben's like, my immersion.
The immersion's broken. We should probably wrap it up, honestly.
Oh, quitter. It's only been 36 minutes, bro.
That's a long.
Are you tired? I'm just getting into the swing.
Well, let's end it.
Let's go for 3 hours.
We'll end it and we'll do another one.
Long cast. No. We only meet weekly.
Yeah.
Ben, don't break the immersion.
Too late. It's happening.
Okay.
It's happening. We're doing the
I
outro.
don't want to go too long. I do have a thing after this.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Oh man, we started off suddenly last time, probably mid-sentence. You suck. Stupid Ben.
This has been a good episode.
Providing all of the equipment that stops early. I could do better.
This has been good. It's cool to talk about.
So for those of you who haven't seen the second episode, go watch that. No, watch this one. We won't explain any further than that.